Under the oppressive weight of a stormy night, FBI Special Agent Angela Ramirez navigated the winding roads of Cedar Falls, a small town nestled between dense forests and rolling hills. The relentless rain hammered against her windshield, obscuring her vision and turning the asphalt into a mirror reflecting the tempest above. Exhausted from a grueling week filled with high-stakes cases and sleepless nights, Angela's only desire was to reach the sanctuary of her home, a modest house where her husband, David, and their teenage son, Ethan, awaited her return. Dressed in casual attire rather than her official FBI uniform, Angela blended seamlessly with the other weary commuters seeking refuge from the storm. Her dark jeans and hoodie concealed her identity, allowing her to move unnoticed through the quiet town. Despite her high-profile career, she often chose to keep a low profile during off-duty hours, valuing the anonymity that helped her maintain a semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos of her professional life. As Angela drove past the quaint storefronts and dimly lit streets of Cedar Falls, an uneasy feeling settled in her chest. There was something off about the night, a subtle tension that prickled at her senses. She dismissed it as the fatigue of her relentless schedule until her rearview mirror caught the flashing red and blue lights of a police cruiser trailing her car. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened involuntarily. And her pulse quickened. Angela hadn't exceeded the speed limit, nor had she engaged in any activity that would warrant a traffic stop. However, she was acutely aware of the implications of being a black woman driving alone at night in a small town, where biases often ran deep and unchecked. The police car inched closer, its lights growing more intense as it pursued her through the storm. Angela's mind raced with questions. Why was this officer following her? Was it merely a coincidence, or was there an underlying motive rooted in prejudice? The rhythmic drumming of the rain against her car roof provided a constant backdrop, heightening her anxiety as the siren's wail pierced the night. Deciding to comply, Angela slowed her vehicle and pulled over to the side of the road, her heart pounding in her chest. The street remained desolate, the rain continuing its relentless assault, amplifying the sense of foreboding that hung heavy in the air. With a final apprehensive glance at the approaching police car, she steered her vehicle to a complete stop, bracing herself for the interaction that was about to unfold. Officer Mark Henderson emerged from his cruiser, his posture rigid and authoritative despite the soaking rain. Angela observed his stern expression and the hand resting near the holster of his gun, a clear indication that this was no ordinary traffic stop. She reached for her purse with deliberate care. Retrieving her license and registration to present to Henderson, as she handed over her documents, Angela maintained eye contact, her calm demeanor masking the anxiety that churned within her. Henderson's gaze lingered on her, a flicker of suspicion dancing in his eyes. "Do you know why I stopped you tonight?" he demanded, his voice laced with underlying hostility. Angela nodded politely. "I wasn't speeding, officer. I was just trying to get home." Henderson's jaw tightened, and he swiftly scanned her license and registration before returning his full attention to her. "Your headlights were flickering. Any issues with your car?" Angela shook her head, her expression unwavering. "No, everything's fine. Maybe it was just the storm playing tricks on me." Henderson's skepticism was palpable. "Well, it's always better to be safe than sorry. I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle for a moment." Angela felt a knot tighten in her stomach but remained composed. "Is there a problem, officer?" Henderson stepped closer, his presence intimidating. "We received a report of suspicious activity in this area. Have you seen anything unusual tonight?" Angela's mind raced, trying to find a way to defuse the situation. "No, I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary. I'm just trying to get home." Henderson's demeanor didn't soften. Instead, his irritation seemed to grow. "We need to be thorough. It's better to check than to overlook something that could be important." Angela considered her options. Revealing her FBI badge might assert her authority but could also escalate the situation further, especially given Henderson's aggressive stance. She decided to reveal her badge, hoping it would bring clarity to the misunderstanding. "Officer Henderson, I'm Angela Ramirez, an FBI special agent," she stated firmly, holding up her badge for him to see. Henderson's eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed in disbelief. An FBI agent? What brings you to Cedar Falls? Angela's relief was short-lived as Henderson's suspicion seemed to deepen. Well, this is unexpected. Why aren't you in your uniform? Angela took a deep breath, maintaining her composure. I was off duty, attending to some personal matters. There's no issue here, Henderson scoffed, his skepticism turning into outright hostility. A black woman FBI agent dressed like that? Must be some kind of setup. Angela felt a surge of frustration but kept her voice steady. I'm here on official business, officer. If there's something you need, I'm happy to assist. Henderson's aggression intensified, his voice lowering to a menacing tone. You don't belong here. We don't take kindly to your kind around these parts. The words hit Angela like a physical blow, the weight of systemic prejudice crashing down upon her. She remained steadfast, refusing to let his baseless hostility undermine her professionalism. I'm here to serve and protect, just like any other law enforcement officer. Prejudice has no place in our duties. Henderson's face contorted with rage, his hands balling into fists. You think you can just waltz in here with your badge and act like you're above the law? I don't like your attitude. Angela's patience was wearing thin, but she held her ground. I'm not trying to get away with anything, officer. I'm simply doing my job. Henderson's anger flared, his body language becoming more aggressive. I don't like you, and I don't like what you represent. You're making a mistake by challenging my authority. Before Angela could respond, Henderson seized her arm with a force that made her wince in pain. Step out of the car, now, he ordered, his grip tightening around her wrist. Angela tried to pull away, but Henderson's strength was overpowering. Officer, please. Henderson shoved her violently against the side of the vehicle, the impact jarring her and causing her to lose her balance. Her purse slipped from her shoulder, crashing onto the wet pavement and spilling its contents, her FBI badge glistening ominously under the dim streetlight. As the realization of her identity dawned on Henderson, his grip loosened, and his rage dissipated, replaced by shock and disbelief. You're an FBI agent. He stammered, the truth of his actions hitting him hard. Angela remained on the ground, the rain soaking through her clothes, but her eyes never wavered from Henderson's face. Yes, I am, she replied coldly, her voice cutting through the night like a blade. Henderson's expression shifted from anger to fear, the weight of his prejudice and aggression crashing down upon him. I didn't know, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Angela stood slowly, retrieving her badge from the puddle. She held it up for Henderson to see, her gaze piercing through his facade. You saw what you wanted to see, officer. A black woman who didn't belong here. And you acted on that without questioning your biases. Henderson faltered, his mind racing to process the gravity of his actions. I was just doing my job, he repeated weakly, the bravado he once held now shattered. Angela's silence spoke volumes, her composed demeanor more damning than any accusation she could have made. Your job is to protect and serve, not to harass and attack based on prejudice. You failed miserably tonight. Henderson, now trembling, reached for his radio, but his hands shook uncontrollably. I need to report this, he stammered, but the damage was irreparable. The power dynamic had shifted completely, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. Report it? Angela echoed, her voice dripping with disdain. You're the one who should be reporting this incident. Officer. Assaulting a federal agent out of sheer prejudice isn't something you can brush under the rug. Henderson's facade crumbled, replaced by a hollow fear. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he whispered, the weight of his actions crushing him. Angela took a final step closer, her presence commanding. It's too late for apologies. There will be consequences for your actions, and it's time you face them. With that, she turned and walked away, the rain continuing its relentless downpour as she made her way to her home. Henderson stood frozen, the reality of his mistake sinking in, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within him. The morning sun struggled to pierce through the lingering clouds, casting a gray pallor over Cedar Falls. News of the previous night's incident spread rapidly through the town, igniting conversations and fueling tensions that had long been simmering beneath the surface. Angela arrived home to find David and Ethan waiting anxiously for her. Their concerned expressions mirrored her own exhaustion and unease. She quickly recounted the events, her voice steady despite the lingering adrenaline. David listened intently, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing, Angela. These kinds of actions have no place in our community." Ethan, ever the inquisitive teenager, asked, "What happened to Officer Henderson?" Angela sighed, her eyes reflecting the weight of the situation. "He's facing charges for assault and harassment. It's a step towards holding those who misuse their authority accountable." As the days passed, the fallout from the incident continued to ripple through Cedar Falls. Protests erupted, with residents demanding justice and systemic reform within the local police department. Social media was ablaze with discussions about racial injustice, police brutality, and the urgent need for change. Angela found herself at the center of these conversations, her actions serving as both a catalyst for change and a symbol of resilience. She attended community meetings, collaborating with local leaders and activists to advocate for transparent investigations and comprehensive reforms aimed at eliminating systemic bias within law enforcement. Officer Henderson's suspension became a focal point, with the town divided in its support. Some viewed him as a dedicated officer who had simply overstepped, while others saw him as a representation of the deeply ingrained prejudices that plagued the department. Amidst the chaos, Angela remained steadfast, her resolve hardening with each passing day. She knew that true change required more than just punitive measures, it demanded a fundamental shift in mindset and a collective commitment to justice and equality. A month after the incident, Cedar Falls was still reeling from the shockwaves of the event. The police department was under intense scrutiny, and calls for accountability echoed through every corner of the town. Angela's involvement had elevated her status within the community, transforming her from a respected law enforcement officer to a beacon of hope for those seeking justice. Despite the progress being made, resistance simmered beneath the surface. Some officers felt threatened by the changes, clinging to outdated practices and harboring their own prejudices. Angela often found herself navigating the delicate balance between enforcing the law and advocating for meaningful reform, a path fraught with challenges and opposition. One evening, as Angela returned home from a particularly heated community meeting, she received a call that would further complicate her already tumultuous journey. The voice on the other end was tense and urgent. "Captain Robert Davis, the head of the Cedar Falls Police Department. Angela, we need to meet." "It's about the Henderson case," Captain Davis said, his tone devoid of emotion. Angela's heart sank. "What about it, Captain?" "New evidence has come to light. We need you to review the footage from last night's incident again." Frustration welled up within her. "Captain, we've already gone through everything. Henderson's actions speak for themselves." But Captain Davis was insistent. "It's our duty to ensure a thorough investigation. Meet me at the station in an hour." Reluctantly, Angela agreed, knowing that compliance was non-negotiable. As she drove to the station, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. She couldn't shake the feeling that the fight for justice was far from over. Upon arriving at the station, Captain Davis greeted her with a curt nod. "Please, have a seat." Angela took a seat across from him, her demeanor professional despite the turmoil within. "What new evidence are we talking about?" Captain Davis slid a folder across the table, its contents revealing footage from the body camera worn by Officer Daniels during the incident. As Angela watched the replay, her frustration grew. The footage captured every moment of Henderson's aggression, each shove, each word laced with prejudice. But hidden within the video was a detail that had gone unnoticed before, a slight shift in Henderson's demeanor shortly after Angela revealed her badge. "What's this?" Angela asked, pausing the video on the frame showing Henderson's sudden change in expression. Captain Davis leaned forward, his gaze fixed on the screen. "Look closely. Notice how his expression softens briefly before he regains his composure." Angela replayed the segment, her analytical mind dissecting every nuance. "It appears he recognizes the authority of my badge but chooses to ignore it, continuing his assault out of ingrained prejudice." Captain Davis nodded slowly. Exactly. This pattern of behavior is troubling. We need to address not just his actions but the systemic issues that allow such prejudice to thrive within our department. Angela felt a surge of determination. We need comprehensive training and oversight to ensure that officers like Henderson are held accountable and that biases are actively dismantled. Captain Davis sighed, the weight of his position evident. I agree, Angela. We'll start implementing these changes immediately. Your role in this is crucial. As she left the station, Angela knew that the battle for justice was far from won. But with each step forward, she felt a renewed sense of purpose, driven by the unwavering support of her family and the community she vowed to protect. The weeks that followed saw significant shifts within the Cedar Falls Police Department. Under Captain Davis's directive, new training programs were introduced, focusing on de-escalation techniques, cultural sensitivity, and implicit bias recognition. Angela worked tirelessly alongside community leaders, fostering an environment of collaboration and mutual respect. Despite the positive changes, resistance persisted. A faction within the department, led by Lieutenant Thomas Green, viewed the reforms as unnecessary and burdensome. Green, a staunch traditionalist, believed that the old ways were effective and saw the push for change as a threat to the established order. One evening, as Angela left a community meeting, she was approached by Lieutenant Green. His expression was stern, his posture rigid with authority. Agent Ramirez, he began, his voice cold. We need to talk. Angela steeled herself, recognizing the potential for conflict. What is it, Lieutenant? Green's eyes bore into hers, a mixture of disdain and frustration evident. These so-called reforms are disrupting the efficiency of our operations. You're pushing an agenda that isn't necessary. Angela remained calm, refusing to be provoked. These reforms are essential for building trust within the community and ensuring fair and unbiased policing. They address systemic issues that have long plagued our department. Green scoffed, his tone dismissive. You think training and oversight are going to solve everything? These people are out there causing problems, and you're trying to change their minds instead of ours. Angela took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. It's not about changing the minds of officers who are committed to serving with integrity. It's about addressing the ones who misuse their authority and perpetuate injustice. Green's frustration boiled over. And what about the countless hours we've dedicated to upholding the law? Now we have to attend seminars and workshops instead of focusing on real work. Angela met his gaze, her resolve unwavering. It's not a distraction, it's an investment in creating a just and equitable community. Without trust, our efforts are futile. Before Green could respond, Captain Davis approached, sensing the tension. Is everything all right here? Green straightened, masking his frustration with professionalism. Just a discussion about departmental changes, Captain. We're on the same page. Captain Davis gave a curt nod, his attention focused on other matters. Good. Let's keep the lines of communication open as we implement these new initiatives. As Green walked away, Angela couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. She understood the challenges of change and the resistance it often met, but she remained steadfast in her belief that progress was possible through perseverance and collaboration. Months into the implementation of the reforms, Cedar Falls began to see a shift in its policing dynamics. Community engagement increased, and incidents of unnecessary aggression dwindled. However, not everyone welcomed the changes. Lieutenant Green and his allies continued to push back, undermining the efforts from within and questioning the necessity of the new protocols. One evening, Angela received a call that would push the department to its breaking point. A confrontation had occurred at a local diner, resulting in the arrest of a young black man, Jamal Edwards. Eyewitnesses claimed that Officer Daniels had acted aggressively, despite Jamal not posing any immediate threat. Determined to ensure justice was served, Angela attended the scene to oversee the investigation. As she arrived, the diner was surrounded by a crowd of onlookers, their anger palpable. The heavy rain had lessened, leaving the streets slick and reflective, mirroring the turmoil within the community. Jamal sat handcuffed at a table, his face contorted with fear and frustration. Officer Daniels stood nearby, his demeanor defensive as Angela approached. "Officer Daniels," Angela began, her voice calm but authoritative. "Let's go over what happened here." Daniels met her gaze, his frustration evident. She got out of her seat and tried to reach for her purse. "I had to restrain her." Angela's analytical mind dissected the situation. "Did she resist or pose a threat to your safety?" Daniels hesitated, the weight of his actions pressing down on him. "No, but her behavior was suspicious, and I had to ensure the safety of everyone in the diner." Angela nodded, understanding the importance of officer safety but also recognizing the need for proportional response. "I see. Let's review the body cam footage and interview the witnesses to get a complete picture." As they delved into the evidence, it became clear that Daniels had overstepped, his actions fueled more by frustration and prejudice than necessity. The footage captured moments of unnecessary force, Jamal merely gesturing towards the restroom before Daniels had restrained him. Angela sighed, the realization confirming her suspicions. "This is another instance of excessive force, Officer Daniels. We need to address this internally and ensure accountability." Daniels bristled, his anger resurfacing. "You're just trying to make an example out of me. It's the system that's broken, not me." Angela met his defiant gaze with unwavering resolve. "It's both, officer. The system allows for such abuses of power, and it's our responsibility to dismantle these harmful practices." As the investigation progressed, the evidence against Daniels became irrefutable. The department was forced to take decisive action, and Daniels was placed on administrative leave pending further review. The incident served as a catalyst for renewed efforts towards reform, highlighting the persistent challenges that Angela and her colleagues faced in their pursuit of justice. The Cedar Falls Police Department found itself at a crossroads. The incidents involving Officer Henderson and Officer Daniels had exposed the deep-seated issues within the force, compelling leaders to take bold steps towards meaningful change. Captain Davis, recognizing the urgent need for transformation, spearheaded a comprehensive overhaul of departmental policies and training programs. Under Angela's guidance, the department implemented mandatory training on implicit bias, cultural competency, and de-escalation techniques. Regular community forums were established, providing a platform for open dialogue between law enforcement and residents. These efforts aimed to rebuild trust and foster a sense of mutual respect that had long been absent. Lieutenant Green, witnessing the tangible progress and the positive impact on community relations, began to soften his stance. The resistance that had once fueled his opposition to reform now waned as he observed the benefits firsthand. He approached Angela one evening, extending a hand of reconciliation. "Angela, I've seen the changes and the positive response from the community. Maybe it's time I reconsider my approach." Angela accepted his hand, a gesture of solidarity and hope. "It's never too late to change, Lieutenant. We're all in this together, working towards a better future." Their collaboration marked a turning point, symbolizing the potential for unity and progress within the department. As more officers embraced the reforms, the atmosphere within Cedar Falls began to shift. The once hostile environment gave way to a more inclusive and respectful policing culture, where accountability and fairness became the cornerstones of law enforcement. As the months passed, Cedar Falls emerged as a model for progressive policing, garnering attention from neighboring towns and even national media outlets. The stories of Angela Ramirez and the transformation within the Cedar Falls Police Department inspired countless others to advocate for similar changes in their own communities. However, the journey was far from over. The shadows of injustice still lingered, and new challenges arose as Angela continued her mission to eradicate systemic bias. She spearheaded initiatives focused on mental health support for officers, recognizing the importance of addressing the root causes of aggression and prejudice within the force. One evening, as Angela prepared to leave her office, she received an unexpected visitor, Officer Daniels. His demeanor had changed significantly, a testament to the profound impact of the reforms. "Angela," he began, his voice devoid of its former defensiveness. "I wanted to apologize for my actions. I was wrong, and I'm committed to changing." Angela regarded him thoughtfully, the sincerity in his eyes undeniable. Apology accepted, Daniels. It's a start. But true change requires continuous effort and dedication, Daniels nodded, a newfound determination evident in his stance. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to make things right. Their interaction symbolized the possibility of redemption and personal growth, reinforcing the narrative that change was achievable through empathy, accountability, and unwavering commitment to justice. The transformation within Cedar Falls was mirrored by a growing sense of unity and resilience within the community. Residents, once divided by mistrust and fear, began to bridge the gaps. Fostering a collaborative spirit that transcended racial and socio-economic boundaries, Angela's efforts extended beyond the police department, working closely with local organizations to address the underlying issues that perpetuated inequality and injustice. Educational programs, community outreach initiatives, and support networks were established, creating a comprehensive framework for sustainable change. One summer evening, Cedar Falls hosted its first-ever Town Hall for Justice, a gathering dedicated to discussing the progress made and the road ahead. The auditorium was filled with residents, officers, activists, and community leaders, all united in their shared goal of fostering a fair and equitable society. Angela stood at the podium, her voice steady and passionate as she addressed the crowd. Tonight, we celebrate the strides we've made towards a more just and inclusive Cedar Falls. But our work is far from complete. We must continue to hold ourselves accountable, to challenge our biases, and to stand together against injustice in all its forms. The audience erupted in applause, the energy in the room electric with hope and determination. It was a testament to the power of collective action and the unwavering spirit of those committed to making a difference. Years passed, and Cedar Falls became a beacon of progressive policing and community collaboration. The stories of Angela Ramirez and the transformation of the police department were chronicled in journals, inspiring future generations to uphold the principles of justice and equality. Angela's legacy was cemented not only through her professional achievements but also through the lives she touched and the barriers she broke down. She continued to mentor young officers, instilling in them the values of empathy, integrity, and unwavering commitment to serving their communities with honor. David and Ethan, witnessing their mother's relentless dedication, became advocates in their own right, championing the cause of racial justice and equality. Their home became a hub for discussions and planning, a safe space where ideas for further reforms and community initiatives were nurtured. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves painted the town in vibrant hues of red and gold, Angela received an invitation to speak at a national conference on policing and racial justice. It was a recognition of her tireless efforts and the impact she had made on Cedar Falls and beyond. Standing before a diverse audience, Angela shared her journey, highlighting the challenges, the triumphs, and the unwavering belief in the possibility of change. Her words resonated deeply, inspiring countless individuals to take action in their own communities. As long as there is injustice, our fight continues. But together, with courage, compassion, and a commitment to equality, we can create a world where every individual is treated with the dignity and respect they deserve. She concluded, her voice filled with conviction. The applause that followed was not just a testament to her achievements but a reflection of the collective hope and determination that drove the movement for racial justice forward. Decades later, Cedar Falls stood as a testament to the power of resilience and the enduring pursuit of justice. The legacy of Angela Ramirez lived on through the countless officers and community members who continued to uphold the values she championed. Statues were erected in her honor, symbols of her unwavering dedication and the transformative impact she had on the town. Young children visited the memorials, inspired by the stories of those who fought against injustice and worked tirelessly to create a more equitable society. As Angela's story became intertwined with the history of Cedar Falls, it served as a reminder that change is possible, even in the face of adversity. Her life exemplified the belief that one person's courage and determination could spark a movement, igniting a chain reaction that would resonate for generations to come. In the end, Shadows of Injustice was not just a tale of conflict and confrontation but a narrative of hope, unity, and the unyielding pursuit of a fair and just world for all.